We do have a lot of older, retired hippies up here. I mean, it's time to put your money where your mouth is. You claim environmentalism, you claim climate change. Okay.
This is a way.
Step up. It's no longer just a hypothetical. You
Yeah.
can't just sit in your ivory tower and be like, I have a Tesla. Everyone needs a Tesla. Why don't the poors have Teslas? And then be like, well, how about we bring the train back? That'll do a lot better than everyone having their own Tesla.
I'm Josiah.
And I'm Adam.
We are Salida Gun Shop. Today we welcome Connor Roth. Really appreciate you being here. We might touch a few subjects, but really kind of off camera we were talking and you brought up how do we get our time back? And I'm just curious, like, what do you propose?
So where did our time go in the first place? That's one of the questions we have. So we all live in Salida here. Well, actually, I'm down in Coaldale, but kind of one of the unofficial suburbs of Salida, about 20 minutes away. So we all chose to live out here in the middle of nowhere, largely to be closer to things we're passionate about. Wide open spaces, hiking, skiing, fishing, hunting, rafting, you name it. We made a compromise when we first decided to live out here. We're going to be far away from things like options for grocery stores, hospitals, airports, movie theaters, stadiums, all these other things that, attract people to big cities on the Front Range. We were like, no. We really care about being out in the middle of nowhere. We like our open spaces, but this comes with a trade-off. Yeah. Nothing's really good, nothing's really bad. It's all about trade-offs. We're all out here in the middle of nowhere enjoying our little town, but we have restrictions. Generally speaking, if you live in Salida, BV, you're 2.5 to 3 hours away from the nearest anything.
Yeah.
So largely all of us are used to getting in our car and driving out, usually against traffic, if I will, to the Front Range to get something taken care of. At the same time, we are all really used to a lot of people driving in on the weekends. Like, have you seen 285 on a weekend?
Right.
Yeah.
Constant line of RVs or skiers. The Front Range invades us while we every so often slip our way out there.
Yeah.
So I've lived in Salida for quite some time now, and one of the things that gets you is it is a difficult place to live. It's a difficult place to get around. We're in these natural geographic corridors, these canyons. Chaffee County, you can come in on 50, you can come in over Poncha Pass, you can come over Monarch Pass, you can come over, I don't count Tin Cup, but you can come over Cottonwood Pass, Independence Pass, Tennessee Pass, Fremont Pass, or Trout Creek Pass. Those are the ways in and out. Every single direction we have is a constriction.
Yeah. True.
So when it comes to how do we get our time back, or how do we get our expenses down, we are a car-centric community. Mm-hmm. Everyone you know owns an automobile, whether they should be driving it or not. Everyone has one. And that is our default mode of transit. We don't have any alternatives. We have a very fledgling bus service that has popped up in Salida, the Chaffee County Shuttle, which, like many shuttle services in rural areas, started out as a meta ride for elderly people, disabled people, but then there's a demand here of people who need to move around. I don't know how many people you guys know have DUIs or anything like that, where they get their license taken away for 2 years. And much like your engine light tricking on, it's very easy to learn how trapped you are once either a DUI or an engine light takes your vehicle away from you. So a lot of these, we're going to set up a meta ride for the elderly, people who can't drive, people who are infirm, people who are disabled. And all of a sudden people are raising their hands saying, hey, I could use that too. Did you know that Salida has Bustang service?
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever used the Bustang?
No, I've heard about it.
Mm-hmm. So have you ever flown out of DIA?
Yeah.
So typically that involves you driving your personal vehicle up to DIA, paying or not paying, depending on how risky you want to be, to leave it at a parking lot, which may or may not be secure, paying by the day, boarding a plane, flying off to Tahiti or wherever, and then you come back and you get in your car and go home.
If it's there.
If it's there. I mean...
or all there.
Or all there, maybe you had some nice rims on it. Yeah. But even if you... Now, first of all, I'm not saying we're going to make Salida car-free, but what if we could make it more car-light? What if we could, instead of driving your own personal vehicle up to Denver, You have other ways to get there where you leave the vehicle at home. I have a lot of friends who live in Denver, and it's really refreshing to take the Mustang up there and not have to worry about paying for parking, worried about vandalism or theft.
Yeah.
Because the first time you do it, you'll be walking around downtown Denver, going to a nice sushi place, going to a restaurant. You'll be like, oh crap, where'd I leave my car? Is the meter about to run? Oh, I didn't bring it with me. It's very refreshing that first time that hits. Same way going to DIA, like, oh no, how much did I rack up in keeping my car at the lot? You're like, oh wait, I didn't bring it with me. Because it's very easy for you to take the Mustang up to Denver Union Station. Union Station, you take the A train. A train takes you to the airport. You then hop on the People Mover. So technically you're riding 3 different modes of transit. By the way, airplanes are a form of public transit. People tend to forget that. But then you fly out without taking your car. So we started this conversation with how do we get our time back? Well, personal story here. I've worked at Monarch. I've worked at various river companies in the valley. And currently I work down in Canyon City. So from future, I spend 45 minutes a day one way driving from Coaldale to Canyon City. I then work my 8 hours in an office, and then I get back in my truck and I drive back 45 minutes. So that means every single day, about an hour and a half, pending there's not an issue in Bighorn Sheep Canyon, is forfeit. It's lost. It's gone to me. It's also Bighorn Sheep Canyon. That is a very mentally taxing drive. I mean, literally a bighorn sheep or a boulder could pop out of anywhere.
Yeah.
Also, a Texan or someone from Kansas could be driving 35 miles an hour.
Looking around.
Oh, rubbernecking. Oh, it's so beautiful.
Yes,
Or they're
yes, it
white
is.
knuckle, like, I don't know what I'm doing. And you're like, I'm just trying to get home. And there's limited options to pass. I listen to podcasts a lot.
Yeah.
And that's typically what I do to help me not feel so guilty about losing that time. Roll it back a few years, I used to work at Monarch. Monarch, of course, you're driving uphill with traffic, a lot of Texans, and you're at Monarch. Let's face it, you're not making much. Yeah, and also you're probably spending the first 2 hours you work at Monarch is probably just paying your gas bill.
Yeah.
Just for the honor of showing up and doing your work. So when I worked at Monarch, the first year I worked at Monarch was 2019, fall of 2019, before COVID, before the dark times.
Yeah.
And we had the employee shuttle running out of Wallbangers. All I had to do was get my butt from Coaldale to Wallbangers. And then once I got to Wallbangers, I got on that employee shuttle and I could sleep, I could watch a YouTube video, I could read a book. I didn't have to worry about putting my own personal vehicle on the line all the way up Monarch Pass, worried about some Texan spinning out in his 2-wheel drive Prius into my truck going up Monarch Pass. Now, COVID hit and that changed things. They took the shuttle away from us unless you did not have a vehicle or if you did have legal circumstances which prevented you from driving. And that meant that second year I worked at Monarch was a lot harder. And honestly, I made less money because more money was going to my gas bill. Because I was responsible for driving my own self in my own vehicle. And we tried to carpool. I was a lifty, by the way. We weren't making much. No tips. And it was tough. And there's a reason why I stopped doing that. And then I went down to Wolf Creek and started shooting photography. A little bit better profit margin as an employee, even if I did have to drive myself. But that was a factor. Is I'm here on my own, having to drive myself up there. And it was really annoying. So I've spoken a lot there to kind of open us up on there. But what are you guys' thoughts on this?
I was curious. So in the driving to Denver versus multiple modes of public transportation, what are the time restrictions that you're kind of? I guess what's the funnel that you get put into? Is like you have to be at the bus station for this, you have to be at the train station for this, you have to be obviously at the airport for this. So when you work your way back and you're supposed to be at the airport 2 hours prior, and now looking at, and this is something I'm not familiar with, is how do you look at train schedule, bus schedule to make sure that all lines out for you to get there? Is that simplified? Is it app friendly? What does it look like?
Once you do it the first time, it's pretty easy. And the benefit of the Mustang is that now they're adding more Mustang schedules. And even the state of Colorado, which was running the Mustang, admits the Mustang's kind of like a feeler service. Because it had a lot of skepticism when it first launched. And some routes have been discontinued. So it is a government program. But they started running buses in some parts of the state. And they're like, there's no ridership here. It's a little test tube. Shelved that one. The Salida, well, not really Salida. It's the Denver to Crested Butte Mustang. That one's actually proven to be quite popular. But the general rule I follow is that if you're using the Mustang to get a flight, you need to have your flight departing after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you need to have your return flight land in Denver before 11 o'clock in the morning, which is a restriction, and I acknowledge that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's a compromise for I don't have to drive my vehicle up there. I don't have to pay to store it. Honestly, if you're going to be out for more than a week, it's a no-brainer. It's a one-way trip. It's $29 from Salida to Denver Union Station.
Okay.
Then once you get there, you need to get the A train, which I believe is like $8.50 for the A train. Like you just need to get like the 3-hour pass. You don't need to get the full day pass. You just need to ride it once.
Okay.
But then that gets you there. And if you can do the books on what's it going to cost to keep your vehicle at a lot there versus
Just the fuel.
Yeah, it's just a fraction of the cost.
yeah. But you can look at the schedule and okay, the Mustang runs at about 90+% on time percentage.
Okay.
So you'll look at its timetable, say the bus departs here, and then it will arrive Denver Union Station at here. The A train itself, that sucker is really frequent. It's got like almost 15-minute frequency.
I was wondering. Okay.
So you'll be at Union Station, you can get a coffee, you can get lunch.
It's not like an hour
no.
difference. It's really regular.
You're on RTD at that point,
Okay.
which is way more frequent. Like once you're within Denver, the buses, the trains are way more frequent. However, if you're just trying to take DIA, you're taking the A train, and that'll take you right to the security gate.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
And then you're probably going to spend more time in security than you are on the train, which is kind of funny.
Right.
But it's pretty simple to use. And once you use it the first time, again, you build it around your flight. If you can get a flight that's an afternoon departure and then your return flight, if you book them at the same time, getting it in the morning, it'll typically work out pretty well. The busting is actually the limiting factor there, not the A train.
So the reason I was asking is we've always have our family trip for the holidays, and I'm trying to convince my wife, well, let's fly, let's drive, let's not drive to Denver and fly. And then knowing this now, it's like, okay, that's how I can work back.
Yeah.
You use that, after 2 p.m., before 11 a.m. landing and take off, and that's kind of a really great, just narrow it down.
And let's use a gun analogy here for cars. So why is it that cars are the default option, whether you're going 2 miles down the road or 2,000 miles across the country? That'd be like having a caliber that's close range and also will shoot out to 2,000 yards. It's like, why are we expecting one mode of transit to do all of these jobs? And of course, over 300, 400 miles, that's the domain of the plane. That's typically the most cost-effective and time-effective.
Okay.
Between, 100 to 300 miles, that's kind of where rail is the best option. Usually cars really excel when it's, 0 to 100 miles of the trip. Most car trips that are taken are 20 miles or less. So it's kind of weird that we have this, intermediate short-range technology that we're trying to do everything with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially with, I'll be the one to say it first, cars are overpriced and poorly built. At least modern ones are.
Yeah.
They aren't built like they used to, and they cost a lot more than they used to. And typically the second most expensive thing any family has is their personal vehicle.
Because you put in the cost of insurance, the maintenance.
The average automotive monthly payment is between $500 and $800. Now let's be generous and call it $600. Maybe if you're lucky, you're under $600. And that might be for a used one. Insurance is typically $100 to $150, maybe $200 a month. Fuel is actually one of the cheapest things about owning a vehicle these days.
Right.
I mean, $100 to $200 a month, maybe under $100 if you live in Salida and you work locally. But we're in a situation where we're talking about the cost of living crisis, and the second greatest expense for most people is their own personal vehicle. And like I said, we're not trying to get rid of the cars.
Right.
We're just trying to reduce our annual mileage. See if we can use them less. Maybe if every car these days is only really good for maybe 150, 200,000 miles,
Right.
let's try to stretch that over 2 decades before we have to buy a whole new car again.
Yeah.
So how do we keep our monthly budget under control by just reducing, drive it a bit. The best thing you do for a car is drive it. That's what the old adage was. That keeps the oil, that keeps everything lubricated, that keeps going. But that doesn't mean you have to drive the sucker to Denver every single day. That doesn't mean you have to drive it to North Carolina. That doesn't mean you have to drive it to California. I don't know why you're going to California, please don't. But I've made that drive and it sucks. And again, with getting your time back of no one I know gets excited about a long distance country road trip, let alone your daily commute, which is just putting attrition on your vehicles, burning out your tires, burning out your oil. You can argue the environmental side altogether, but cars are the most expensive mode of transit per passenger mile that you can possibly have, and it is the default for this country. And we don't even consider the alternatives.
Yeah.
What would you say the alternatives are, like, number one?
Well, number one should always be your own two legs. We live in a country that seems to be rather against the concept of walking. When walking, you ever wonder what people in the 1950s and 60s were lean without even the concept of gyms being a thing? Part of it's nutrition of food, but part of it's people walked more back then. Now people, you walk 20 feet out of your house, you get in your car, you drive across town, you walk 20 feet in your office, you sit down for 8 hours, and you wonder why you got health problems. Now, Salida itself actually ranks pretty high. There's a website called WalkScore, and it also has bike score in there. Salida has a 97 bike score and about a 76 walk score. That's pretty good by American standards.
Yeah.
Typically, most towns in the U.S. are looking at like the 20s or 30s for both categories.
Really?
Basically meaning that you cannot, a bike is just a recreational toy and you can't walk anywhere. I mean, even Canyon City actually has a nice downtown. But if you live in the grid system of Salida, you can bike most everywhere. And a lot of people do, especially with the advent of e-bikes. People are trying to keep miles off the vehicle, put miles on their feet, put miles on the bike, because the bike is a lot cheaper to maintain than a personal vehicle. It doesn't need insurance. That's a great one there.
And you think about the improvements that Salida's done for that space too. It's a little bit safer. I feel like every year for the biker, the walker, the people that are going to utilize that type of transportation as well.
And I was in that same camp too many years ago, where you're driving down F Street, you're driving down G Street, H Street, like these damn cyclists in the middle of the road, get on the sidewalk. Then you start riding your bike for a while, you're like, does it really deserve the hostility? Especially if like the downtown parking situation.
Yeah.
On a weekend, good luck, especially in the summer. Good luck finding any place to park downtown. And this is one of my main points. Like, why is it that Salida and downtown, you're looking at, if you want to rent someplace down there, you want to rent a shoebox apartment, you're looking at $2,000
Yeah.
for a shoebox. Why is it that someone can park an RV for free for as long as they so please, but you're paying $2,000 a month for rent? That real estate is premium. It's also one of the best net tax bases of the entire city, because it's all dense, it's very efficient. In case you're wondering about tax base, think about it in terms of infrastructure. If you think about sewer, water, roads, and power, the closer these things are all together, the less line losses you have. The less sprawling it is. It's more dense, it's easier to maintain. You can justify consolidating systems and really putting in the money to make a good system. That's why dense downtown cores are actually some of the net sales tax profits. There's in any county, you'll see a heat map. You'll see where sales tax versus expenses to maintain. And you'll see downtown cores are actually one of the most positive revenues, where they're making more money in sales tax than the city and the county has to spend in maintenance. Then you get to the more sprawling areas, the less dense areas, you see that's actually costing the city more to maintain it than they actually earn in revenue. And that's a problem, because at that point, it's a slow road to going bankrupt. So when you look at downtown Salida, these parking spaces, which don't earn a dime, I mean, the reason why they're there is because, well, whoever's shopping at the art gallery or the thrift shop or going to Amika's, going to the boathouse, needs to park their 2 tons of steel and plastic they brought with them. So that's why it's a necessary evil. We have to allow the people to have free parking to stimulate economy, to stimulate commerce. Now, that's true, but like, where's the balancing point? How do we, maximize on our high profit real estate while also facilitating the foot traffic that's required to make that tax revenue? And I know no one here likes taxes, but this is one of the most efficient money makers a city has. So that's where we get into other transit modes. Like right now we have the Chaffey County Shuttle, which does run a very entry-level service between Salida and BV. There is a shuttle that goes back and forth between the 2 downtown cores, so you can shuttle between them. But what we really need is more of like buses that go from Salida to Poncha. So that way you can live in Poncha, where it's cheaper, and then the employees can get to downtown to work their job without taking up a parking spot.
I want to talk on that just for a second. The interesting thing that I thought about is, why would those modes of transportation not sell signage on their modes of transportation? So if, let's say, Monarch has a bus that goes up from Salida, and on the back of the bus, they got a big old sign, that XYZ business could pay for to offset.
They could.
You know?
Well, also, if you think about it, if Monarch, let's stick with this hypothetical for a moment. So the Monarch employee shuttle, as far as I know, it's back in operation. If you go by, it was Wallbangers. Now and then it was Stoke, and now it's Little Cambodia. Third time for Little Cambodia. I wish them the best. But the employee shuttle is operating, as I understand it. When I come through downtown winter, I see it there. Obviously, Monarch has their buses. Now, the employee shuttle is one thing.
Yeah.
As far as a open to the public shuttle,
Yeah.
I'll give you a couple things to chew on there. First of all, what do you think about the concept of adolescent mobility?
Huge.
Yes, this is the conversation that we were having like not too long ago about how the kids in town need to have an option to get to the mountain, to need to get to the bike park or the skate park or wherever.
Well, a couple points on adolescent mobility. First thing is that in this country, most kids are effectively under house arrest till they get their driver's permit. And that's if the family either has a car they can use in addition to the car that the parents are using to get to work, or maybe they're well off enough to buy the kid a car when they're 16. That in Salida, maybe it's an old busted, maybe it's nothing. There's a lot of single car households in Salida where that car, mom or dad, is taking it to go to work. So that car's not available. And then you have these kids that might be enrolled in some program with school where they get, like on Fridays, because Salida's a 4-day work week, or 4-day school week, the kids can get on a school bus and go up there and ski. So there's that aspect of it. But the big thing is that we have these children which essentially, like I said, are under house arrest till they're 16.
Yep.
And then you go from, you are not allowed to go further than your bike or your feet can carry you to, here's the key to a Civic, drive to New York City if you so please. That's a huge jump in not necessarily responsibility, but capability. It's just kind of thrust upon them. I know that like permit says you're supposed to know go 50. These are kids, teenagers.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice if we could maybe work their way up to like, okay, you're 14 years old, you have a bike, but now there's this bus that can get you to BV, maybe a bus that can get you to Monarch on a weekend when maybe your mom or dad are otherwise occupied.
Yep.
So you can start to interact with the greater world and become a more responsible adult, knowing how a bus schedule works, being able to be autonomous in your transport without having to be dependent on your parents or a friend's parents to get you around.
Right.
So with this concept of adolescent mobility combined with like a Monarch shuttle, that'd be fantastic because this is how you sell it to Monarch. Monarch is popular, yes.
Yeah.
But they have a private parking lot they are responsible for maintaining. They get potholes in that parking lot. Guess who has to fill in those potholes?
Yeah.
Monarch does. So having them have a bunch of people bring their own private vehicles in there, wearing and tearing, I mean, potholes don't come out of nowhere. It's a matter of attrition. Wouldn't Monarch be like, hey, let's do a cost-benefit analysis. If we start running a shuttle, what does that reduce our need for parking attendants? And what does that reduce the wear and tear on our own infrastructure that
And the
we're
space.
responsible for maintaining?
Yeah.
And we have more. This is one of the things that people are going to say, like, we can't have public transit to ski areas because then the mountain become overcrowded, as if the mountain wasn't already overcrowded.
I say the parking is
The same amount of people are coming, typically. It's just maybe we can reduce the damage they inflict on the way up there. And then we can get into the statistics of what are your odds of getting hurt on Monarch Pass in a car accident, having some Texan spin out and knock you over into the Madonna mine. They don't put any guardrail there because we're Colorado. We drive on expert mode.
yes engaged.
So there's that concept of like there is an argument for how you sell semi-private transit to mountains. Like yes, it would be lovely if Monarch had a bus that starts downtown at First and Sackett, or it would be F and Sackett, and then works its way up through F Street, gathering all the little villagers, makes a stop in Poncha Springs, and then drives up there, and all they say is, hey, we depart at 4:30, like 30 minutes after lifts close, get your affairs in order, get back on the bus, we'll drop you back off as you came. Might even be able to be worked into the ski pass. Especially if you're under 16, you don't have your own wheels anyway. Because now you'll be able to get more value out of that ski pass if you can get up on the weekend when mom and dad need to go to Home Depot and Canyon.
3 trips turns into 12. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
then-
And
now
how
it's
many
more-
burgers does that sell?
Oh man.
You
You think
know?
of the parents looking at it as like, okay, there's only like you can look at their schedule and it's like I'm only able to get my kid up there like 3 times this month. And now with that option, now a season pass makes way more sense.
Oh, yeah. So maybe you'll sell more season passes if
yeah.
the parents are like, hey, Jimbo can get himself up to the mountain while I can do something else.
Yeah.
And you sell a bus pass.
Yeah.
Well, that could be an add-on to
Right.
it might be something like, yeah, you can pay per trip, or you can get the Kid Pass Bus Plus.
Yeah.
And add that on there. And with my conversations that we've had with Ski Cooper, this is a big deal because Leadville is a lot worse off than Salida. And you know about the whole weird trifecta of Ski Cooper?
No.
So Ski Cooper is, these words should not make sense. They are a privately operated, county-owned nonprofit.
Huh?
How do you put a nonprofit, county-owned, privately owned? How? What?
It's either, I think either Lake County owns it or Leadville owns it.
Okay.
The thing is that you have a private operating company, essentially operating Ski Cooper, but all of its assets and the Forest Service owns the land.
Right.
But
okay.
the lifts, the snowcats, the launch, that's all owned by the county or city or the city. So you're in a situation where, you know, the incentives are all over the place.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to run a lean nonprofit privately with government-owned assets. So this was always the argument of every time Ski Cooper, the operating side, asks for money, well, then the county says, well, what equity are you providing? Because you're essentially a government-owned enterprise, privately operated, government-owned. And you're not allowed to make money. Every dime you make has to either go into wages for your employees or be reinvested into the property. So that's this weird thing where as soon as Ski Cooper says, like, hey, we want to put a new lift. Hey, we want to upgrade this lift. Hey, we want to do anything. We want to put new treads on a snowcat. Anything that isn't beyond like bare bones maintenance.
Yeah.
The county comes back and says, like, hey, well, how many people are able to use Ski Cooper? We've got a lot of families here that have one car, and Dad drives to Climax every day. And these taxpayers are not able to take advantage of this publicly owned asset.
Right.
And I'm sure somebody from Ski Cooper watching and here be like, it's not set up like that. I just know that when I went up to that open house, like we're a 401c XB5 360 no scope rare profit. Like their tax ID, like it took them like 30 minutes to explain what kind of tax ID they had because they're such a weird amalgamation.
Yeah.
But that's a great example of like, well, this is a publicly owned asset that until you provide more equitable access to from the people who, I'm not saying pay your dues, but pay your dues,
Right.
we're going to be more critical of what you do or are not allowed to do.
I never even realized how, like, geographically far Ski Cooper is from Leadville.
You're not walking there.
No.
And they have a shuttle. It runs like once a day and it can carry like 20 people.
What do you think the capacity would be needed for us in Salida through Poncha up the mountain, capacity-wise, to make that morning trip or mid-morning trip?
Well, it'd be nice if we could do 2 trips because not everyone wants to do first chair.
Yeah.
So even if Monarch were to say get a 50-person coach bus, or not even a coach bus, but just like you can even do a city bus. Like city buses can fit a little bit more people on them, just not as comfortable. Storing the gear is a bit difficult. It might be a series of smaller buses. I'm not here to design the actual equipment. I'm not here to pick what they need.
Right.
It's just one of the things for them to chew on and be like, how do we make this make money for us? How do we make this make sense?
So it's not a 14-passenger van,
No,
basically.
no.
It's okay.
Or if it is
Yeah.
a 14-passenger van, they got a lot of them.
Got it.
But then we're into the driver problem.
The Home Alone picture just came into my
That's what I
head.
was thinking.
Yeah, which leads us to the big, very sensitive subject, which is what my group is behind. The group I work with is called Western Rail Coalition.
Okay.
Now, we are pro-bus,
Yeah.
pro-walkability, we are pro-bikeability, but we also understand the fundamental limitations of these. Now, walking, well, people are only willing to walk so far. Biking, people are only willing to bike so far, especially if it's below freezing outside. Buses
Yeah.
are very flexible, easy to deploy,
Yeah.
but driver to passenger ratio, even if the thing's fully loaded. Even if we have a coach bus, that's 55 seats, 1 driver to 55 passengers.
Yeah.
What if we could get those ratios into 1 to 100, 1 to 200, 1 to 300? Now we're getting
Significant.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Because one of the biggest limitations of buses, when you're not using them for their flexibility, is how they scale. Because at a certain point, you're locked into so many drivers per passengers, even if every single vehicle is fully loaded. This is disregarding the fact that these buses are competing on public roads with other vehicles,
Right.
and their relative fuel efficiency compared to rail, that's all out the window. We're just talking about wages for operators to passengers moved.
Okay.
So that's where rail starts entering into this conversation. So we, in the Arkansas River Valley, are sitting on a really nice piece of infrastructure.
Really?
Tennessee Pass.
Right.
So for those of you who don't know, it's the rail line that you see running next to the river.
Yeah.
Originally built through the late 19th century, 1880s. It's kind of when they finished it up. They got all the way up to, originally the idea was to get to Leadville.
Okay.
And then they kind of accidentally ended up in Eagle County. And by that point, they're like, whoa, we built a transcon before the Moffett Tunnel. Technically, the first transcon was the Marshall Pass, but that was all narrow gauge.
So can you explain what transcon?
It goes from coast to coast and goes over the Rocky Mountains. We don't have that many of those in terms of rail.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah. So the Tennessee Pass was the first standard gauge, well, Midland route toss-up. The rail guys I know are going to true me about. But the Tennessee Pass was actually one of the first good standard gauge transcontinental railroads in the state of Colorado.
Okay.
So starting at Pueblo,
Yeah.
goes from Pueblo to Florence, Canyon City, Cotopaxi, Howard, Salida, BV, Leadville, crests over the top of Tennessee Pass where Ski Cooper is,
Yeah.
goes down past Red Cliff, through Minturn, Avon, Eagle, Dotsero. Then it links up at Dotsero to the Moffett subdivision, which goes to goes through Glenwood Canyon and off to Grand Junction and Salt Lake City.
Oh, wow.
So that's the rail line. It's around 186 miles of rail that's currently dormant, not abandoned. Now, I'm going to address this point real quick. Dormant versus abandoned. For the line to be fully abandoned, the current owner of the line, Union Pacific, would need to put it up for sale, and any other Class 1, probably BNSF, would buy it in a heartbeat because
Yeah.
BNSF does not have a transcon that they have exclusive rights to in the state of Colorado. Now say BNSF and Warren Buffett, they don't want it. Then it goes up to sale for the Class 3s and the Class 2s, if any of them want it.
So what are the different classifications?
It's based on revenue, kind
Okay,
of.
gotcha.
But Class 1s are like Union. There's only 4 Class 1s, which are BNSF, Union Pacific, Norfolk Southern, CSX.
Okay.
And Union Pacific and Norfolk Southern might be merging, might not be. They probably are. And then you got like the Canadian National and Kansas City that was just merged for like a north-south axis that goes from Mexico to Canada. But basically, for those who are talking about trail possibilities of, let's rip out all the rail and replace it with a trail, it's like, well, there's a series of steps that need to happen legally on a federal level for that to happen. And then whatever your trail consortium is, they need to pony up net liquidation value, which is the price of the scrap metal as profit deducted from all of the expenses of ripping up the track.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of money. You're trying to rip up 186 miles of track through very rugged country. Needless to say, those who want it to become a trail don't quite have the money to do that, while those who understand its value as a rail line are less likely to turn it into a trail. Especially if the state stepped in and tried to buy out the line and turn it into a trail, it wouldn't be really a good use of government funds to buy a really nice piece of infrastructure, then tear it apart. Not saying our government doesn't do stuff like that all the time.
Yeah.
They do.
When there's a deficit, why not just increase it?
Yeah, so that's kind of where, for the time being, this will always be a rail corridor.
Okay.
So that's kind of the first point I want to get across. Pending ridiculous circumstances, this will be a rail corridor as it is now till the end of our lifetimes.
Okay.
So the question is, between now and then, what do we do with it that could be useful?
How long has it been dormant then?
It's been dormant since 1997.
Oh, wow.
In its whole capacity, there was some activity till a few years after that, just up to Leadville to finish out some contracts.
Okay.
But it stopped being a passenger carrier in 1967.
Really?
And a lot has changed since then.
Yeah.
So now we're looking at new markets and new markets to serve. So as we started out with 285,
Right.
that massive inrush of people. Now I understand that that's a really direct line from Denver, but also in the Front Range, a lot of people are coming up Highway 50, and then the Eagle County portion of this conversation is a whole different can of worms.
Right.
But we're in the mountains.
Yeah.
As I stated earlier, we have very limited access points to our valley. If you want to add a third lane to Highway 50, please show me where you'd fit that. If you want to add a third lane to Monarch Pass, again, please.
Right.
Poncha Pass might be the easiest out of all of them, but not many people are coming from the south.
Right.
Same thing with Trout Creek Pass in 285. I mean, that you probably could do because once you're up in Park County, it's pretty wide. But then once you get over the hill and you start dropping into Denver, it gets really tight really fast.
Yeah.
So we're in a situation where, as a town, we want to maintain sustainable growth without drowning. If you look at Fibark, our downtown is basically inaccessible to any locals. Right. Locals go out of town on Fibark. It's no longer our festival.
Right.
So how do we get some of those people onto something else and make it safer and less burdensome on our communities? And that's kind of where we look at this picture of like, how does rail factor into the long-term view of the valley? And how do we use it to help us and not hurt us?
Right.
And it's a very sensitive subject because those rails have been quiet for a very long time.
Well, yeah, I imagine people that live close to the railroad would be pretty fired up.
Pretty up in arms for sure.
And we're talking about modern rail vehicles, which are a lot quieter.
Okay.
And I don't want to say, the passenger trains in America have always been pretty short since we stopped running Class 1 passenger service back in the 1960s. But, you're talking about trains that aren't miles long. They're, in the, like, 100, 200 feet long, if that, usually being 100, 200 feet. Very quiet, very short.
How many people typically could you have in that?
So, for example, with a DMU, like the Stadtler Flirt, it's a nice intercity regional rail vehicle. Those suckers can fit 300 people on them easy.
Wow.
Which is actually a sizable amount of movement that you can get.
Yeah.
What's interesting about, the first thing I thought about is the people that commute to Climax.
It's not necessarily on the rail, not anymore.
But they could get to Leadville.
Yeah, they
right?
could get to Leadville and get on a company bus from Leadville. Now, that's if they live in BV.
Yeah.
Which, if you live in BV and you work at Climax, my heart goes out to you because that is a gnarly drive.
Yeah,
So-
in the
that
winter.
you do every day.
Yeah.
Especially if you live in Salida and you work at Climax, like, what is wrong with you? That is but same principle, and it's always a smattering of use cases. Like, there's going to be people who live in Salida but work in BV, and vice versa. There's going to be people who live in BV but work in Leadville. So we're talking about, where is this big group of people that's all going to be at the station at the crack of dawn, all aboard on this train? Well, we're picking up here and there. There's going to be some tourists in there. There's going to be some employees in there. There's going to be some kids trying to visit their friend in BV. So it's all these little drops all add up together, and we fill the bucket.
Right.
Because that's the biggest argument we always get. We are too small for transit. Arlington, Texas is a city of 450,000 people. They still think they're too small to need a bus system.
Oh, wow.
Holy smokes.
Apparently Uber is sufficient. It's not, but that's what the city council wants. Because public transit is expensive. But then again, owning personal vehicles is also expensive.
Yeah.
So,
It's just shifting the burden of responsibility, really, at that point. Yeah.
and in a day and age in which vehicles are getting more expensive to buy, insure, not necessarily fuel for now,
Yeah.
it's just like you're just shoving this expense on everyone. It's like, oh, we can't have this, I'll say the T word, we can't have this tax to fund public transit, but I will voluntarily pay a finance company to buy my Honda.
Yeah.
And when it comes to finance companies, I personally believe you're giving money to the worst people. And insurance companies aren't that much better.
Right behind them.
So, it's like I will voluntarily give several $100s out of my pocket a month to these kinds of people. Do you guys know what the nationwide student debt is collectively?
Wasn't it all forgiven?
Currently, the standing balance for student debt is $1.88 trillion.
Holy smokes.
Do you know what the standing balance is for collective auto loans?
Oh, Lord.
No.
1.66 trillion.
Holy smokes.
That is how much people who are getting the right, or not the right, but people who have the freedom of their own car are paying. Collectively, as Americans, we have $1.66 trillion in debt under interest we're paying to these finance companies who never built a car in their damn life.
Right.
They are just buying it for you, and then you pay them a little bit extra every month to have the privilege of owning a depreciating liability. People tend, once they make that doubt, like, oh no,
Right.
I'm the one funding the people who really hate me. All these big investors, because the thing about these loan companies is they don't just sit on your cash; they invest it
Right.
into what they want. Same thing with insurance companies. Your premium you pay each month, Geico doesn't put that in a kitty. They invest it in the market in the stocks they want to succeed.
Yeah.
And who decides that? Geico.
Huh.
Yeah.
So you're giving a lot of power to people who don't necessarily have your best interest at heart.
Yeah. If you were to dream up like the best solution, not the best solution, but the ideal solution for the rail to be introduced, the use for adolescent transportation, like what do you see for, let's just say like Chaffee County, what would you want to see become with like everybody's like whatever Connor says?
Well, first thing, what do we want to do? And why do we want to do it? So one thing we need to acknowledge about small mountain towns is that we have disproportionately higher traffic because of our desirability and our geographic constraints to our tax base. So even though Salida might be a town of 6,500 to 7,000 people, we can see triple that number on a popular weekend. If it's a big festival, we might see quadruple or 5 times that number. So we need to acknowledge the problem of we are a very shiny star that attracts a lot of people coming from close to intermediate distances away, sometimes even further. So we have to acknowledge that we're not a sleepy town. Not anymore. We have a large group of people who want to come here semi-regularly. Where they're coming from, we're not really keeping statistics on that. A lot of them might have a Texas license plate. So we are a small town with a disproportionately high amount of traffic. What are our use cases we're trying to solve? Well, we're trying to cut down on monthly employee expenses. So we want to get our employees to their place of work with as little money spent before they even show up. Second of all, we'd like to improve the traffic flow between our communities. If we're just looking in a Chaffee County context, it'd be nice to have Salida and BV not be divided by a time barrier. We don't really think about it too much, but if you're in downtown Salida, like want to go to downtown BV, like it's 45 minutes if there's traffic, if you got a big line of cars. I mean, sometimes if it's midnight and you're speeding, you can get from Salida to BV in 30 minutes, but still bring our communities better together.
Yeah.
So that way it's a lot easier for both communities to interact with each other, experience each other, spend money in each other.
Right.
So we're both looking at a mix of moving local people around and also moving people from outside Chaffee County in. Or, as I say it, like until we have a train from Salida to Kansas City, the people in Kansas City are going to drive here in the minivan, go skiing. But let's say we've got family of 4. We got mom, dad, brother, and sister. Now, dad and sister really like skiing, but they only brought one car. And mom and brother learned on day 1 at Monarch, they really don't like skiing.
Yeah.
So now their vacation, that week-long vacation, well, mom and brother are going to spend a lot of time in their Airbnb looking at each other, while dad and sister ski it up at Monarch because they've got the car. Now, if we had the bus, maybe they could take the bus up there. So how do we make it so that mom and brother can maybe spend money in more than just Salida or BV? Maybe they could spend one day in Salida on Tuesday, then get on a train, go to BV and spend a day up there, spend some money up there. Then on day 3, they go all the way up to Leadville. And don't forget, this thing goes all the way up into Avon and Vale and all that too.
Okay.
So what I would say is we need to see a combination of a local bus service that would help get people from downtown Salida up to Monarch. That's our ski angle. We need to have a local circulator that between Poncha and Salida, which is coming, if not already here, through the Chaffee County Shuttle, to help employees get from Poncha Springs, which is cheaper to live in, or was, down to their place of work in Salida. We'll then have Salida and BV tethered by rail, which, by the way, the rail is actually faster than driving by the old timetables.
Really?
No way.
What's the decrease in minutes then?
It's a this is
mileage the
this
same,
is a
right?
not. It's actually more like a hypotenuse. Like Salida is a triangle. The rail's more of the hypotenuse where you have to go out on 191 to go up. So consistently, in 1960, the rail was doing departure at 325 in Salida, arrival at 404 in BV. So a little bit around 40 minutes, where right now it can take you sometimes 45, or if you go fast, maybe you can beat that. But still, on a bad day, bad weather, any traffic at all, 40 minutes downtown Salida to downtown BV, it's pretty tight if you were driving that.
And on a train, carefree.
Yeah, and you can enjoy Browns Canyon.
Yeah.
And that's a conversation for another time of running a train through Browns Canyon. They seem to make it work pretty well in the Royal Gorge. So,
Okay.
But looking at tying BV and Salida together, that way they're local bus systems, because right now the bus system's really inefficient going between Salida and BV, because you're burning up a lot of time just to go between them, when you could pick up a lot more passengers in Salida and a lot more passengers in BV and ferry them to that train station, so that way you get that ridership. Because Salida and BV have really good walkwells. And a walkwell is basically the walkwell, bikewell, the realistic distance you could be expected to be away from a transit stop to actually use that.
Okay.
And then we get into more fun stuff like, hey, you're in Salida, put your mountain bike on the train, go up to Twin Lakes, go up to Leadville, go hit those trails. What if instead of putting the bike in the back of your truck, you could just roll it onto a train and off you go?
Right.
So you have to think a bit more creative about the use structure, but largely have the train serve the axis of the valley and then have the buses operating around there.
Okay.
We've done a great job with our bike trails and our walkability. And at the end of the day, we're just trying to reduce the monthly expense that we have while also being able to travel more freely
Nice.
in a more efficient way. After that, it's all, the environmentalism, that's all just icing on the cake.
Yeah. And it'd be the tertiary effects that benefit everybody moving forward. Another thing you mentioned, because of the amount of visitors and the attraction that access would allow, has there been any communication with the Chaffee County Visitors Bureau to see how they could be involved and or to promote something as you start to look at how to find other ideas and ways for this to work, and instead of just saying like, well, we don't have the base, we don't have enough people here to get on, like you're saying, like how could they be brought into this to help, or have they been?
Well, we haven't reached out to them yet. We've largely are trying to make this more of a grassroots idea of explaining, one, debunking a lot of misconceptions.
Okay.
And two, kind of presenting it as an idea, not an absolute, of like this could be useful, especially if we're looking long term, in which maybe fuel isn't cheap forever. Because how high does the price of gas need to get before tourism starts to dry up? Because we're not a Glenwood Springs, we're not a Vail. We don't want to be, but also at the same time, like through a recession, as the money recedes, Salida is going to look a little bit less desirable. It's hard to get to. There's not that much there. So, is it really worth it? So it's kind of fortifying if you can quite literally grease the rails to make it always easy to get to your town and then spend the money.
Right.
Then you're fortifying yourself for the town that doesn't have an easy... Like Pagosa Springs is a great example of a town that's really hard to get to from any direction.
Right.
And they're just kind of out in the wayside of nowhere. And they will suffer for that through harder economic times.
Right.
Because you're burning more gas just to get to the place you want to have fun. And more time, as this all started with. We want our time back. I would like to be able to board a train in Cotopaxi or Howard and commute down to my job in Canyon City, where I can get that time back. Where even if it takes a little bit longer, would you rather be on a train for an hour reading a book or sleeping, or driving for 45 minutes?
Yeah. Like capturing 15 or losing 15 minutes, but capturing
an hour back in your day where you can do something other than trying not to die.
Right.
Because the most dangerous thing you do all day is drive.
Yeah.
You're taking your life in your hands, and it might not even be your fault. It could be a rock, it could be a deer, it could be some guy from Kansas.
Yeah.
And slowly over time, people are realizing, hey, this whole automotive is the lifeblood freedom of America. It's not actually reaching expectations.
Right.
Because again, it's all fun and games until your engine light turns on.
What are we supposed to have flying cars by this time too?
I think a lot of those futurism fantasies distracted us from very practical solutions, because you've got
That's a
tried
good
and true
point.
solutions, and then you have what we call gadget bond. Flying cars, Hyperloop, all this super fancy, super sexy stuff. It's a catch-all solution. It'll fix everything.
Right.
And it's like kind of like fusion. Like they've been promising fusion in the next 5 years for the last 50 years. And even flying cars is like, I'm an aerospace engineer, so like the energy density of batteries, or even the fuel and the energy required to make something airborne. And if you think your fuel economy is bad, wait till you look at what it takes to make a truck hover.
Right.
It's not going to, we already have flying cars. They're called helicopters, and they're only used by the ultra-rich.
Right.
So, and then you got stuff like Hyperloop, where it's like, oh, it's a super, like, super fast train, but we're bringing all the dangers of stratospheric flight down to the ground. Whereas it's like, what about, like high speed rail or even higher speed rail, or just, I don't need it to be 200 miles an hour. I just need it to be useful and get me to my job safe and on time.
Right.
So kind of understanding what we could actually get out of a system like this.
So how do you see the grassroots understanding of this kind of blossoming throughout 26, if not at the beginning of the year?
Well, I think that the everything crisis is really putting a lot of pressure on this. Like I said, the only thing cheap about owning a car these days is the fuel. And that could change very quickly. Some conflict in the Middle East, some Russian embargo on more of their fuel, and fuel could jump back up a couple dollars a gallon. But I think it's a lack of trust in the automakers of making a good quality product that's easy to maintain. They're all pushing, electric cars. They're all pushing subscription-based models where now you have to pay for heated seats or turn signals. So I think people are losing faith in Detroit. And even then, you look at the lots of car dealerships, the cars aren't selling.
Right.
The average age of the American automobile is now pushing 15 years old. We're now starting to push like almost to 20.
Wow.
Because people do not have the money to buy a new car. Or if they do, they replace it with another old and busted that just has the same engine light. Yeah. So naturally, you're seeing the cost of living crisis, the fact that wages haven't kept up with inflation, and the spiraling cost of personal automotive ownership. That's pushing people to say, hey, I'm not going to get rid of my car, but please can you make me not dependent on it every day? And it's very difficult to wave my magic wand and reduce the rent in Salida by $1,000 across the board. But what if I could get you more foot traffic, reduce your commute expense, and possibly stimulate some entirely unseen traffic patterns that would generate revenue? That you can do through a coordinated effort to look at restoring. Probably start with buses first, because buses are always the feeler. But long-term, buses just don't scale well, especially in more spread out rural environments where regional rail does really strong. Okay. So that's where people are, I hope that when they look at their own pocketbook and once the idea is in their head, then they'll start to put two and two together. And they'll see that this could work.
I feel like community that this would impact pretty heavily would be like the Leadville community that commutes to the Eagle area, right?
Oh yeah, Leadville is the cheapest suburb in Eagle County and Summit County. So there's a lot of people who currently drive over Fremont Pass and Tennessee Pass every single day. Yeah. It's actually kind of crazy, but I believe the statistic is every day or something like 70% of the people who live in Leadville or Lake County work outside of Lake County.
Holy cow.
And the remaining 30% are either working at Climax or government, hospital, school, or the handful of people who work from home. An overwhelming majority of people in Leadville, some people call it the Leadville 500 because everyone wakes up at the same time and they have to go over Tennessee Pass or Fremont Pass to get to their job. And that's a hard drive. Especially in winter. Have you ever driven Highway 24 in winter?
Yeah.
Brutal.
Imagine doing that every single day just to get to your job that barely pays you anything down in Eagle County because you live in the cheap neighborhood. Right. So Leadville has been receptive to this idea when we bring it up to them because they have this problem. Now that doesn't mean Chaffee County and Fremont County don't have similar issues.
Right.
Like a lot of people, I know a lot of people who live in Canyon City but work in Salida because again, it's cheaper to live in Canyon City. But now, it's a trade-off. Now you're driving more and taking more risk every day just to get the privilege of making money to pay off your car and your fuel. So it's very circular. But just back in the 1960s, cars were cheap, fuel was cheap, the roads were new. We won 2 world wars. We could do no wrong. Right. Trains were this archaic, outdated technology. By the way, the interstate highway system, largely that was funded by taxing the crap out of the freight railroads. And then railroads
defeated itself.
Then the railroads deregulated too late and they had to give up a lot of their trackage rights because of weird tax rules. That's a whole other thing you can look into of like what happened to Americans' railroads, like how did they get so cannibalized and turned into zombies? Well, they were gutted through like the 60s to like the late 80s. And that's why, you have like the precision scale of railroading where it's like all profit motivated because they're traumatized from like we tried to help and then we got punished for it and now we just focus on making money.
So that brings up something I was just kind of writing a little note on. What would it basically cost? Are there numbers out there that Union Pacific or BNSF would have to put into it to be able to see a return on investment?
Well, there's a third player in the market right now.
Okay.
That's Rio Grande Pacific. They're currently holding the lease till 2030 on the line, and they're leasing the line from Union Pacific, actively looking for ways how to make money on the line.
Oh.
And passenger service is one of those.
Okay.
Now, odds are, like most public transit, it will be some kind of government subsidy. But the idea is that for every dollar you spend on public transit, you're avoiding a citizen from spending money on it, and also you're reducing highway attrition, which has a dollar value. So highways are not free. Freeways are not free. We actually spend more, collectively as a country, we spend more on our highways and freeways than we do on defense, which is kind of crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah. Defense budget's around $900 billion.
Yeah.
Now the federal budget for highways as of like 2023 was federal level was only around $250 to $300 billion. But then if you put every single state DOT and then you add in all your county roads and then you add in all your cities who maintain roads, if a car can drive on it and it's public road, if you from the city to the federal government, if you aggregate all that together, we spend way more on that than we do on defense.
Wow.
Because nothing destroys itself quite as quickly as road infrastructure. So highways are not cheap, highways are not free.
Yeah.
But that's why taking the load off of the highways and putting it onto steel wheels on steel rails,
Right.
a lot cheaper and easier to maintain. Let's put it this way, the Class 1s are able to run a profitable private infrastructure-based transport system. No other transport system, aside from like a logging road, is a privately owned, privately maintained transport infrastructure. Like if all the trucking companies in the country got together and decided to buy America's highway network, and then even if we gave it to them for free, but they're responsible for maintaining it, they'd be bankrupt in a month.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a matter of like understanding where the money flows. And okay, yes, the public rail side might be subsidized. Yes, the buses are subsidized, but what are we getting for that? You know, you're spending on infrastructure. It's not necessarily a welfare program. You're enabling, like the highways get a free pass because that's how we stimulate economic development.
Right.
Transit never really gets the same attitude. But as far as raw numbers go, to restore the line up to modern specs, the entire thing kit and caboodle, some experts we've had look at it are looking at about 500 million to maybe 700 million if you really want to do it. If you're just doing sections, you could probably keep that under 250 million.
Okay.
So it's not cheap because the rail line has been dilapidated. Now there's a lot there. It's still a lot cheaper than any type of new rail project. It's still cheaper than like front range passenger rail because we've got a lot of infrastructure in the ground right now. And some people dispute that number, but yes, I mean, if you want to call it $1 billion project, I'd say it's going to be a fraction of that. But it is doable, especially if you have a private-public partnership involved in this, which some people love, some people hate. But that's why you have companies like Rio Grande Pacific looking into this, where it's like, hey, maybe on the Arkansas Valley side, we have a mix of maybe some local freight and some passenger service. And I'm not trying to put words in anyone's mouth. I'm just being pragmatic. We've got ranchers, we've got Butella, we've got aggregate, we've got lumber yards. There is an opportunity for revenue-making freight, which will help subsidize the cost of restoring this line, while also having some local...
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, that would be...
Whoa.
Now, caveat to those of you watching home, when I say local freight, we are talking about like 10 to 20 car freight trains. We are not talking 2 mile long monsters.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we are talking about how do we help the big industries in this valley, being mining, ranching, aggregate work. I'll throw the lumber companies in there too. How do we help those guys out? How do we get them access to bulk shipping rates?
Could you
Wait,
imagine
but
how
then that-
much safer the roads would be
Well,
too?
think about this. Lumber costs.
Yeah.
Delivery is a large majority of that.
Right.
Unless you're growing it right there and have the sawmill next to the lumber yard.
Yeah. Getting those big trucks with the...
Yeah, and one
Stop
rail
it.
car is the equivalent of 3 semis.
What?
In general, I mean, plus or minus on depending on what you're moving.
Is
But
it the length and the
and
height?
the weight.
Oh,
And also,
okay.
it's taller. I don't want to say it's wider because some trucks can get really wide. Like you're not doing oversized loads on it.
Yeah. Okay.
But with regards to like, if you wanted to move gravel by rail versus moving gravel by truck,
Yeah.
it's no contest.
Wait, What about the house builder up in DV?
Fading
Yeah,
West.
they're
Fading
fading-
west.
They're right next to the rail line there.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they start gonna. This is what we call transload facilities, where the rail line doesn't go all the way to the business, but it gets close enough, and then instead of a trucker
super
doing
close, yeah.
a 100+ mile trip or a 200-mile trip, they're doing like a 5-mile round trip or less, where they just have
Couple
to get their
trips a day,
You could have
and
one.
then-
You could have one
yeah.
guy who's just a part-time truck driver drive down and pick up a load right there, maybe in Johnson Village, and then run it back up. We could do fuel delivery this way.
Yeah.
We could do lumber this way. We could do aggregate, both exporting aggregate and also for Climax if they need to bring in any special minerals. You then have the various ranchers in here, which might want to have access to bulk feed delivery.
Yeah.
Shipping cattle.
Well, no one really ships cattle by rail anymore. They typically do it by truck. However, typically, if you talk to anyone who ships cattle by truck, usually they expect to pull at least one dead cow out of it per trip, because they get rocked around a lot.
Yeah.
So no one really does ship cattle by rail. Not to say we couldn't do that again, but we don't really do that anymore because the way how those markets work. But there's several other customers
Yeah.
along the line which could help make the economics of this look in a better light. And again, we're making roads safer because we're doing less wear and tear. We're taking those trucks off the roads. And by the way, 90% of the damage inflicted to highways is by heavy trucks. That's just
Right.
physics.
Yeah.
Because when you think, if you want to think about it in PSI terms, your car probably has 35, 40 PSI tires on it. A semi-truck is usually running around 100 plus.
Yeah.
And it's just heavier load, ripping into that asphalt, chewing it up. It's just, when you have that normal force squeezing and compacting that gravel, that's what kills it.
Yeah.
So reducing trucking miles, pulling trucks off the roads,
Yeah.
putting that onto rail, making the canyon safer, making the canyon less congested. These are all benefits that need to be in some kind of public conversation.
Yeah.
Shipping containers full of guns.
Well,
I like it.
you can do that. I'm also thinking of just intermodal transport in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you get like a distillery? You got
Yeah.
2 of those in town. What if they could ship in and ship out bulk materials?
Yeah.
And then we have Smelter Town over there and the old rail yard here. This is a conversation we've tried to have with Minturn. Minturn's tough. But the rail yard over on Salida, that's some very valuable real estate.
Yeah.
Now, right now, it's all owned by the railroads, privately held land. It's been privately held land for over 100 years. The only way how you're going to get them to give any of that land up, and I'm not speaking for UP, and I'm not speaking for Grand Pacific, but say it's like City of Salida says, hey, we're interested in your rail proposal, but we've got some contingencies. We'd like to, you don't need this whole rail yard anymore. We're not running, silver trains like we were back in the heyday of Leadville.
Yeah.
Maybe you could parse off some of that land for other uses. I mean, still keep your tracks, still keep your right of way, but we'll just kind of cut off some portions of that and develop some of that land. They sometimes call this a self-funding project. That there wouldn't be enough revenue in that, but it would help if you could return some of that land to either the private or the public sphere to be used for something else. Again, not putting words in anyone's mouth. Same thing could be true of Minturn. That rail yard is really, really big, and maybe we could cut that sucker down to size, still preserve the track, but cut it down to size and open up a lot of real estate opportunities.
Yeah. Workforce housing.
Workforce housing, or if you want to build bougie condos, I mean, I'm generally more in favor of workforce housing because that's the problem. We've got no shortage of luxury real estate.
Yeah.
We've got a shortage of affordable real estate. But this is just an idea of 10, 20 years down the line, what does this community look like? Do we find a way to be sustainable? And there's another thing here, like electric cars. If that's demanded to be the future, how many people here can afford an electric car?
Yeah.
And also, say I wave my magic wand. Everyone in Salida has a brand new shiny Tesla sitting in their driveway. Do we even have the grid capacity for everyone to charge those, whether it's charging at home or charging at a public charging station? Salida's already having power issues in the summer.
Depends on how many diesel generators we have sitting at each
Yeah.
corner.
Yeah, how's that going to work? So the electric cars might make more sense in a more metropolitan area where you're worried about more local pollution and you're not going very far, you're not going very fast, and there's a charging point hooked up to a more robust grid on every corner.
Right.
What I'm worried about is in 10 years when we have 200 Teslas from Denver come down 285 and they all plug in to Salida because they're all at 20%. They all plug in at the same time,
Yeah.
and then wonder why the town's lights turned off.
Yeah.
because and you know how utility base rates work, right? So
Demand.
Well, you might only buy $20 worth of electricity a month, but you're paying a $50 base rate because that base rate goes to the maintenance and construction of new transmission lines. Once Salida needs megawatts of power, well, now little old, Jenny Smith, 89 years old, who's used the same amount of power for 50 years, her base rate goes to the roof because we got to build these big transmission lines to support all these Teslas from Denver. Right. And she's like, I haven't increased my load at all. Why do I have to pay all this extra cash? It's like, well, we need to beef up your grid so they can charge their Teslas.
Yeah.
And you're like, but I didn't do anything. You're just jacking up my price for no reason. I'm in no position to take advantage of all these grid upgrades.
Right. The 50-year outlook is what I see that, like, this idea is like, yeah, that's huge.
And it'll be cheaper today than it is then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least with the way how inflation goes.
Well, it's just like the conversation we had with Dan Shore. He's like, if we would have built, Firehouse 10 years ago when we talked about it, it would have been 10 times cheaper. And now we've got it done, and other places are looking at it. It's 10 times more expensive than what we paid for it. So either do it now with the future in mind, or wait and pay more in the future.
Well, it's selling the idea that this is a way how to fortify the community.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be a thorn in the side. It's not meant to be something divisive. It's like it's supposed to promote connectivity, reduce monthly expenses, and fortify the community. And all the environmental benefits, that's all gravy on top of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think about it like, can you imagine the options people would have and where they could work?
People in Salida could get jobs in Canyon City. People in Canyon City could get jobs in Salida. People in Salida could get jobs in Leadville. And then there's the whole, once we're hooked up to, like, this is the tide that lifts all boats. Like, we've got Mountain Rail, which is going to be Denver to Steamboat. Front Range Passenger Rail is steaming up. Love it or hate them, Amtrak's putting good numbers on the board. They're actually doing pretty well. Like the new Borealis service and the Mardi Gras service, they're selling out. Like there is an appetite in the country for rail, because you can blame it on tourism. People going over to Europe, like, holy crap, Europe and Japan, like, why don't we have this? And then we say, America's too big, it can't work here. It's like, this country was built on rail. Salida was built as a railroad town. Right. And you're telling me, just arbitrarily in the 1950s, it ceased to work. The rest of the world seems to have it together. Right. I mean, right now, the Philippines, Mexico, and Northern Africa have better rail systems than we do, because we're just stuck in the past.
That's actually an interesting.
I mean, New Mexico now has the Mayan train, and they're building a transcon for Mexico that is going to compete with the Panama Canal.
Ooh.
What?
Because of the lake issues with not enough rainfall, where now it's, and also the Supermax container ships, they use a lot of water through the locks, and now it's, they have to wait for the water levels to fill up before they can run the ships. Mexico's like, we're just going to build a really nice, fully electrified rail line across the narrowest and flattest part of our isthmus. And they did. And it makes us look like fools.
Wow.
Because we're still stuck in the 1950s, or not even like 1950s, 1960s mentality, and the rest of the world has left us behind. I mean, we don't even need bullet trains. We just need better transit options, where it's not everything defaults to your personal vehicle on your liability. I hope you can maintain it. I hope you can pay for it, and I hope you can insure it. It's just offsetting so much of the burden onto the individual.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that way. And it's not we're trying to get rid of cars. We're just trying to use them less and use your car for fun. Use your car, like, enjoy it. Like, the worst thing you can do with a car is commute with it, because then you hate the damn thing.
Yeah. Don't want to spend as much time in it. Yeah. I like the vision. I really think that if you look at it in that 5-year, 10-year, 50-year plan, like, to solidify Salida as the the place that people want to be. It's like if people can't get here because of fuel prices, or they don't have a vehicle anymore because they couldn't pay insurance or whatever,
or say they have an electric car, but their electric car only has a 300-mile range and they live in Kansas.
Yeah.
Are they going to daisy chain all the way across here and wait at those charging stations? Yeah. Now, the other thing is that Salida is very well positioned, because we're on this arc, for the camera, what would that be? It looks like this, where Salida's here at the bottom of the valley. We have, over that way, we have Gunnison, and over that way, we have the San Luis Valley. We could be a transit hub between, Crested Butte, San Luis Valley, Wolf Creek, that area, where we already have Mustang service that goes Alamosa, to Pueblo. That line, using the same amount of buses and the same amount of drivers, could just do Alamosa to Salida and just lap that, or Pagosa Springs to Salida. Now Salida's a transport hub. Now we've got that bus that was doing Crested Butte to Denver. Now you've got a bus that does Denver to BV. You hop on the train, you come down, and then you do Salida to CB. So now CB and Salida can be more well connected.
Yeah.
So it's when you start to expand the scope outside of Chaffee County, things get really exciting. And when it comes to things like Ski Cooper or Beaver Creek and Vail, Vail's already got issues with parking. They almost want to cut and cover their highway, and people have limited access. And we typically, I don't think we're going to become Vail if we have better access to Vail, but it allows people in Avon to visit Leadville, maybe visit BV, maybe visit Salida on a summer vacation, and allows people in the Arkansas River Valley to have better access to Avon and Vail, which they do have different retail environment, different stores. It allows people to actually spread their wings a bit more and travel around their own state.
Yeah.
You got Costco.
They do have a Costco, and that Costco in Eagle County needed an exception because typically Costco does not put in a store unless the population is over 50,000. They got an exception because of that huge inrush. Now here's the other thing. If we restore the rail line, you could get on a train in Salida and take it all the way to the Eagle County Airport. 737s fly out of there. You'd have a direct airport connection. And the thing about airports is that it's an economies of scale. The more people who fly out of that airport, the cheaper it becomes to fly out of that airport. So Salida could get a direct airport connection, which again, it would be a long enough trip from Salida to the airport that I think it would benefit people in Salida more than people flying in and flooding our town. But the thing is that town only really feels crowded when you can't find a parking spot.
True.
So if there's more foot traffic in Salida because people flew into Eagle County and decided to ride a train all the way down here with their wallet, great. But if they didn't bring their car with them, there might be the business owners in downtown F Street be like, this is great. They left their car at home and they brought their wallet.
Yeah.
Which might be a more cynical way of looking at it, but business is business.
Business, yeah.
Yeah. So, but I do get excited about the idea of you're saying Salida could have a direct airport connection to not just a propeller plane at BV, like an actual airline connection. That'd be big.
I think one of the last things I kind of wanted to touch on is, so we've kind of gone through the proposal, everything. Where do you see as major barriers to entry and or major barriers to push this to the finish line?
NIMBYs. NIMBYs?
Nope.
Not in my backyard. It's going to be the wealthy landowners who'll be like, I'll never use that damn train and I don't want to see it out my window.
Yeah. So you got to figure out a way to bring them on board.
Well, we will outlive them.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the honest truth. I mean, they will. Usually good ideas never succeed because the people who don't like them agree eventually. It's more of they just pass on. The younger generation will be wanting better solutions and not to maintain the status quo because the status quo ain't serving them. And arguably at this point, the status quo isn't even serving the NIMBYs.
No.
So you do need to have a lot of very wealthy track-adjacent real estate owners to understand this is something that we all need to work together. Maybe have a bit more empathy, which is in very short supply these days. But I mean, if I were I do live within earshot of the rail line, where I do in Coaldale, so I'm not immune to the effects of this. That being said, trains are typically quieter, and we can have quiet zones with no horns and such like that, as long as we have the crossings correct. But still, it's a matter of, if you were a wealthy landowner next to a rail, it's maybe by running that train a bit more, with a bit more passenger and freight, then my good friends who live up on the highway wouldn't have such a loud experience. So maybe it's seeing that as the trade-off. Maybe that's how they can look at it. And we do have a lot of older retired hippies up here. I mean, it's time to put your money where your mouth is. You claim environmentalism, you claim climate change. Okay.
This is a way.
Step up. It's no longer just a hypothetical. You can't just sit in your ivory tower and be like, I have a Tesla. Everyone needs a Tesla. Why don't the poors have Teslas? And then be like, well, how about we bring the train back? That'll do a lot better than everyone having their own Tesla.
Yeah.
If they have it in their hearts to say, yep, that's true. Or if they're like, I'm only a fair weather environmentalist.
Yeah.
And it's like, well,
seems like the majority of them.
Yeah, a lot of them. They buy a tie-dye T-shirt at Earth Day and they call it good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to shoot straight.
You're
on
on
the
fire.
list.
I love it. I love it.
But that's going to be one of the big issues because right now,
Is that really the biggest issue?
well, the other thing is that we've got a lot of our work cut out for us. Mountain rail is happening. Mountain rail is real. Just in this last election cycle, Yampa Valley passed an RTA, Regional Transit Authority. So that means that they're willing to step up and start funding better buses, better service, and they are going to be getting a train from Denver to Steamboat. I think it's going to be like almost like 2.5, 3 trains a day. And then we're going to have FOMO because all of a sudden Steamboat Springs would be like, check out this train we have. This is really awesome. And then we're thinking, once the Steamboat train starts running, you're going to have Eagle County going, wait, they got a train. Where's our train?
Yeah.
We got tracks too. So once with Americans, they need to see it to believe it. And it's been so long since rail has been a staple of anyone in Colorado's daily life. Like since the old Rio Grande and the train stopped running in the 1960s. Like very few people living alive in Salida today even remember that. I've talked to some of them, and they said it was great. There's some ladies down in Coaldale who actually remember this and actually rode the train from freaking Cotopaxi to Leadville or to Canyon, and they have living memory of this. This is not ancient technology. This is it's an old technology. It works pretty well, but once people can see it in action, and you see trains, full trains from Denver and Steamboat making a difference on Highway 40 up there, and actually being used and a valuable aspect of the community, then it's going to be this like weird ripple effect where it's no longer a hypothetical. It's like it worked there, it could work here. And the thing about this is that once you have more trains running and they all interconnect, because this system would you'd be able to go to Salida to Glenwood Springs, and from Glenwood Springs, you could get on the Zephyr and go to Denver. You could go to Chicago. You can go to San Francisco. You can go to Salt Lake City. A partner organization of ours is the Utah Rail Passenger Alliance. And they're interested in this as well because hey, we can get Colorado and Utah to have a bit more going on. Now there's actually some place to go because we have both the local trains, but then you also got the long distance. And I really believe in sleeper trains. I think they're really cool where you fall asleep, in Denver, and then you wake up in Salt Lake City. We could get there in the same way how you could get on a train in Salida, tie into Glenwood Springs, and then the country is yours.
Yeah.
Maybe even one day get down to Albuquerque. Wow. And this is it.
That would
How
be
many
cool.
of you guys hate the airlines
Right now,
and want an
goodness
alternative?
gracious. Yeah.
Yeah.
The airlines suck.
With the government being shut down, and I guess the newest post was the line out the door in Texas.
Well, even
waiting.
when they're working,
Yeah.
the airlines still suck.
Yeah.
And how many of you have lost your luggage and had them cancel your you can't cancel the flight 6 months in advance, but they can cancel it 6 minutes before you take off.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to have an actual alternative to flying. And I think if it did exist, we're better. And that's one of the reasons why Amtrak's doing well, is because the airlines have pushed a lot of people. I don't care if it takes longer, taking the damn train because screw American Airlines.
Right.
Huh.
So I guess the last thing on my question list is I don't want to be conspiratorial, but if you start looking at attacking, the industry of vehicle making, you start. Is there enough big money that would push back on this idea?
Well, they already have. The 50s and 60s were full of basically anti-rail propaganda. Look up Give Yourself the Green Light. It's an old piece of propaganda
So
from
it's a thing.
the 50s.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've already done their damage. Goodyear bought out the rail lines in Los Angeles and then ripped them up because they wanted to sell more tires. The conspiracy, that's history. It's not theory, it's history. But to an extent, these days, the auto industries have pretty much become their own worst nightmare.
Yeah.
They have systematically destroyed faith in their own industry. Where, you get these stinker vehicles that, blow an engine at 5,000 miles. And then, the new Chevy F-250, it's only, $1 billion or $200,000. Yes, I know Chevy F-250, I'm making a joke. But
I got it.
yeah. But you see Chevy is the heartbeat of America. And who said that? Chevy. No one says that. I do think that the auto industry has overplayed their hand. Because you have no choice, we've got you by the balls. You've got to buy one of ours.
Yeah.
And then the insurance companies and the auto loan companies are yep, we have a monopoly on transport, and you guys are going to pay us one way or another.
Yeah.
So as far as the auto industry fighting rail, they've already fought and won. And now we're just in the counterattack.
Yeah.
And the counterattack is because, like, we were sold a lie that automobiles were the symbol of freedom, when really they're just the symbol of debt.
Yeah.
And yeah, to anyone watching this, it's like, yeah, it's all fun and games until you turn, oh no, and you see the engine light, you're like, damn it. How much am I in for now? 1,000, 2,000,
Right.
3,000? Is it even worth
and
putting
3 weeks of waiting to get it fixed or whatever, yeah.
Is it worth putting the money into this old and busted?
Yeah.
And I know people who have interlocks. I know many people who have interlocks. And maybe they wouldn't have even gotten caught in the first place if there was another way home.
Yeah.
And once they have that interlock, like, yeah, you know, those are expensive, and now you have no other way to get around unless you can buy the thing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're even allowed to drive, you might even be on probation. You know, at a company I work at now, I mean, there's some people who they had their license revoked. And
Right.
yes, there's some personal issues there, but it shows you how vulnerable you are when your only mode of transport, because we have no redundancy, we have no alternatives, is taken away from you. You suddenly realize, like, oh, wow, this is what car dependency looks like.
Yeah.
I'm stuck.
Wow.
So
Very enlightening.
it's an uphill battle.
Seriously. Yes.
I think it's promising though, too.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
the idea of this, the rail system, the bus lines, is just something that to make Chaffee County, to make Americans more resilient,
Well,
less dependent.
it helps us get through energy crises better.
Yeah.
Helps us get through financial crises better. It gives people options. And the other thing is that, you know how many jobs that brings to the valley? You know, good paying, skilled jobs that cannot be exported to China.
Yeah.
Like, how are you going to expect to export, they're called Gandhi dancers, rail line workers. How are you going to expect to export that job? You kind of have to be here to do it.
And you can't replace it with AI.
It's AI resilient. I mean, you might have the dispatching and stuff like that, you know, semi-automated, but still and the rail lines are still very regulated by the FRA. So we still don't have automated trains, so you're going to have a driver. You're going to have a human on board. It's not going to be a self-driving train.
Yeah.
Now, some people say, well, the self-driving cars are the solution to everything. So, do they know how to drive in a blizzard? But some people feel more comfortable. Like, yeah, there's actually a human at the helm.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, you're talking about bringing a lot of 100K plus jobs into the valley if you were to do something like this.
Really.
Real industry jobs, year-round, not seasonally dependent.
Wow.
It's another major bonus right there, for sure.
And not there will be some government help, but also this could be some mix in between, and it also will be able to make its own revenue if we mix in some freight.
Yeah.
Now, freight makes a lot more sense on this side than the other side because Vail is way more of a bedroom community, and they don't really want freight over there. They don't really have the industry for freight. Ironically, the gypsum wallboard plant is in full swing right now, and it's still served by rail in Gypsum. If you ever seen that wallboard plant,
Yeah.
So Eagle County still has local freight, even though, but that's also because if anyone's worried about this line being restored as a through running route, Tennessee Pass is 3.5%. Very steep in railroad terms. Very,
Wow.
very steep. They consider like 1.5 to 2% like way steep in railroad terms. So the reason why the line was shut down in the beginning was because once, Rio Grande bought Southern Pacific. Southern Pacific and Union Pacific merged, giving Union Pacific four transcon routes.
Okay.
So they had the Sunset, the Tennessee Pass, the Moffett, and the Overland. And the Tennessee Pass was the steepest out of all of them, so they made it dormant because they didn't help our locomotives. So the reason why Minturn has such a big rail yard is you'd have this transcon freight train. They then lash up an additional like 6 locomotives to it just to get it up the hill, get up to the top of where Cooper is, and then disconnect them and run them back down.
Okay.
That's a very expensive thing to do. So they stopped doing it. So the line does not lend itself for
Heavy.
through running freight, heavy freight.
Right.
It would not be economical to run oil trains or gravel trains, or it would be really tough. And there's already enough capacity on the Moffett subdivision and the Overland route and the Sunset. It's not necessary. We're mostly looking at local freight. I just want to make that point clear.
Cool. Nice.
All right.
That's cool.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it,
That's
Connor.
awesome.
Yeah. Well, appreciate you guys watching. Please continue to stay tuned.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. And if you like this type of content, please go ahead and drop a like, comment, or subscribe. Share this video. Thank you.